Ladies and gentlemen, I have been requested to react to this video a lot, right? It is a video by none other than the #1 Kurobot himself, Mr. Gacha Smack, and the truth about the new endgame content in Wuthering Waves. And this is the thing, right? I don't think just looking at the first frame of this video does it much justice. Because when you just look in here, right, you take a look at this, HP inflation, power creep, and then one of the most nasty grimaces I've seen this man ever make before. It's not actually that bad. I'm exaggerating slightly. So yeah, that's going to be some of the context heading on into this one. Let's go ahead. Let's give it a bit of a listen because we do have our own opinions about the ToA, but I'm not necessarily sure if power creep and HP inflation are the words that I would necessarily use. Hey everybody, Saint from the future over here. Just wanted to do a bit of a quick disclaimer before the react actually begins. I'm on the record saying that this ToA should actually become quite a bit easier. I've made the suggestion that this first buff over here, the one that increases your damage over time, 60 seconds after the battle begins, I think that this 5% over here should be buffed up to 7.5%, essentially making the total damage, you know, partway through the run closer to 90% as opposed to 60%. I think that individuals that don't have a signature on certain characters are suffering quite a bit, while those that, you know, while teams that do aren't necessarily having too much additional trouble, at least in my opinion. So this is how I would even the playing field without naturally, right, making the game mode too trivial for those that you know, going in with a team of like fully geared out characters or, you know, multiple sequence nodes. So yeah, I think that this is a good lever that Kuro has put in for lower investment accounts. I just think it needs to be bumped up by about 50% more, and the game mode should feel pretty balanced to me. But yeah, let's just go ahead, back to the react. So without further ado, let's see what he has to say.
All right. This is one hell of a nuanced topic. I'm going to try my best to be as fair, but shoot as straight as I possibly can. Does power creep officially exist in Wuthering Waves?
I think opening up with a bit of a disclaimer like that, especially with a thumbnail that's like that, you know, loaded, is I think that's a good move by Smack heading on into this one.
Is HP inflation now a thing in Wuthering Waves? First off, power creep has always existed in Wuthering Waves, but it's never been problematic due to the ability to still be able to have skill expression, get good skill to the point where you comfortably clear all endgame content. Let me state and clarify one more time when I view power creep as a problem. It's when the baseline of the game's difficulty has been compromised by HP inflation and then power creep, meaning the newer characters are much stronger than the older characters. And if you're somebody who's very skilled at the game and you do your rotations properly, you're dodging, parrying, and all that jazz, and you're still struggling to clear the in-game content, we now have power creep that is problematic.
Okay, yeah, I see the point of view that's being brought into here, right? If you're using a meta-level team, right? A meta, and keyword to me is a meta-level team from before the supposed power creep, then new meta teams come in, and then it feels like you're not able to clear with the old meta ones. I 100% agree with that take, right? I'm thinking about like viable teams. Like I'm thinking back to like some of the Hoyo games, right? Think about a Hu Tao Genshin Impact. Think about a Hu Tao, Yelan, Xingqiu, Zhongli team, right? Everyone knows the Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Yelan, Zhongli team, right? That one is like, or was strong. That one was a team that you would use in Genshin Impact Spiral Abyss, and you typically be okay over, you know, 3-4 years of the game. Nowadays, if you run Hu Tao, Zhongli, Double Hydro, that team does not clearing anything. Yeah, that team in Genshin Impact is clearing nothing. It is not clearing the Spiral Abyss. It is not clearing Stygian Onslaught. You can maybe play it in Imaginarium Theater if you get lucky and get the characters for it and the elements that are usable for that. But chances are you won't. And the end result is that that meta team from Genshin Impact, the 1.x, 2.x days, is not viable anymore because of HP inflation and power creep. I agree with that completely. Yeah, when that happens, that's not good.
And I think with this latest ToA update and quote-unquote expansion, if you will, has introduced a problematic power creep as well as an HP inflation.
So this is where I feel like the opinions might differ a little bit. And I've already seen the example team that Gacha Smack shows in the video. The key word in my definition of problematic power creep is that it has to be a meta team in the first place. And just skipping ahead a little bit, 112. This is the team that Gacha Smack uses over here. I don't consider this to be a meta team. I consider this to be like a barely scrapes by Zani team because she does have the unfortunate part of her kit. For her to be meta, Phoebe has to be on her team. And if you only have Spectral Rover and no Phoebe, I don't consider that to be a meta team. I consider this to be a budget team. And so that's where our definitions are going to kind of like stray away from each other. That's just my personal take. So we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up from here with some of that context in.
Now, we're not going to just talk out the ass here. I'm going to show you a composition in which I mastered, and I spent a number of hours going up against these newer modes in comparison against the composition we all know this mode is designed for based off of how the buff functions.
So I think he's really leading into some of like the shield nature of the buffs. We'll revisit that in a bit.
But there really are so many different facets and caveats to cover. It's not just one answer. And so I pray the community known as the community incapable of understanding nuance can understand the fucking nuances of this. First, I want to start off with, my voice sounds a little bit better. I want to start off with the buff. The buff says you gain a 30% heavy attack damage bonus. This obviously doesn't apply to a lot of characters, but this is one character it does apply to. One of my favorite character in the game, Zani. And she's a perfect like case study in comparison to how she's going to perform against somebody like Augusta. Now, you get a shield, you just have to pop your ult, and it's a 4-second internal cooldown. You take 10% less damage, and you get an increase of 16% damage, stacking up to 3 times.
Yep.
Which retriggering it will reset its duration, right?
So there's only a couple characters in the game that are actually able to use this buff at its max potential. The characters are Augusta, Yuno, Taqi, and Janshin. Those are the only 4 units in the game that can fully stack up this 16% damage buff from retriggering shields to its max of 48% damage. Only those 4 characters can do it. Brant is not able to because he applies a shield 1 time.
So this is a universal buff. If you ult with anybody, the shield will be applied so long as you don't get hit or the shield stays on you, you get full benefits. It's not like it's only applied to Augusta. It's just easier because Augusta just applies a shield every time she attacks, right?
So that is unfortunately incorrect with how this buff works. You need to apply a shield multiple times to stack it up. And your liberation shield that you get from activating it only applies 1 stack. And so that 1 stack of 16% damage bonus will only apply for 6 seconds after you get the shield. And that is what it's like for most characters. They gain 6% of the damage buff, or they gain 6 seconds of a 16% damage buff, and they can't refresh it unless they're, they have like a Taqi or a Janshin on the team.
But this is very much so a universal buff with a skill issue attached to it. Well, with that understanding, I've prepared 2 showcases for you guys. One with the Zani comp and then one with the Augusta comp. The Zani comp took me 30 fucking tries to get a perfect run. And I do mean it's a damn near, as close to possible, perfect run. The only time I get hit in the run is intentional hits just to finish my Spectral Frazzle application from the Spectral Rover to place onto Zani to charge her up so she can enter her ult. As you know, there's a lot of micromanaging Spectral Frazzle when you do not have Peeb.
Yeah, and this is the thing. And this goes back to my definition of a meta team. Zani, Spectral Rover, Shorekeeper is not a meta team. And it's never, been a meta team. It's a team that you would, kind of copium with. It would work, right? It would work, but it never had close to the damage output as any other meta team. So this is kind of like what I'm talking about over here, right? This is a meta team. This is a meta team. A lot of these teams that I'm showing you over here kind of synergize perfectly with each other. Every character is able to use, this is a meta team. They're able to use their full potential. This team over here that Gacha Smack is using, imagine this rover is Spectro, right? I could switch it. I don't want to bother with it right now. This is the team that Gacha Smack was using. Spectro Rover over here. This team is worse than 1.0 meta teams. This team, right, is worse than this team. This team is worse than this team. 1.0 meta teams are stronger than this one. And so the kind of like experiment that Gacha Smack is doing, right, is he's taking a team that, and again, this is my opinion, but I feel like most people will agree with it. Gacha Smack is doing the experimentation, I think, with a team that, yes, could clear content before, especially content like the side towers, but it is just not even as strong as baseline meta teams from version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2 of the game. And this is the thing, right? He's doing some giga sweaty rotations over here. We'll take a look at it, and then we'll maybe do some of our own comparisons ourselves.
And if you're somebody who goes, well, you don't have Peep, you're only feeding in to how power creep is problematic. I hope you understand that, because you should not have to pull on.
My take is that using a Zani without a Phoebe is like using a Jinxie in hypercarry without coordinated attacks. It's, yes, right? You will charge up Jinxie's Forte Circuit. You will still be able to deliver a good portion of her damage, but you'll never get close to the point of like maxing out her Forte Circuit and then hitting, right, 30, 40k skill bursts like Jinxie typically does. And that's kind of like the situation with Zani over here, right? When she doesn't have Phoebe and she's only using Spectral Rover, you can play the Spectral Rover rotation giga sweaty, right, to constantly quick swap, which is what I think Gacha Smack did. I think that's why it took him so many tries, is because he was hyper optimizing the shit out of the team. You can also hyper optimize, right, like a Jinxie without coordinated attacks to like split field time, quick swap, do stuff like that. But at the end of the day, most of the time you're just like, okay, like it would just be a lot better if I used a Cantarella or a Jeja.
Multiple characters or one character to function. That would be a whole separate problem that contributes to the overall issue here.
Zani is a character that is unfortunately really limited by the Spectral Frazzle archetype, much like how Jinxie is limited by the coordinated attack archetype.
I do want to be fair though. With maximum skill, you can clear this floor, but with maximum skill, you're not comfortably clearing the floor. And then on the other end of the spectrum, with Augusta, who this is designed for, without her her I am clearing this shit first try, brain dead mode.
That's because the buff is incredibly shielded, right? The buff is incredibly shielded, and you can, without a doubt, with a decent Augusta build, clear it very easily. That is a fact. That is true, right? But you want to know another team that clears this brain dead easy? Because it's interacting with the shield buff? I've got just the showcase for you, right? And this is I'm literally going to be playing one of my own videos, but there's a reason for it. I have this video over here called Taqi Breaks the New ToA. Ladies and what I use is a 2.0 unit, right? S0R1, 2.0 unit S0R1 with a level 40 Taqi. And because I'm using Taqi, who can abuse the buff, right? You'll see over here how much an S0R1 Carlotta is hitting the enemy for. Good, isn't it? Oh, that's really damn good. And you can see over here, our rotation is barely slower than a Jeja. So that first hit did 230k because we're maxing out that buff. That's 230k. Team doing this. That's 114k on each liberation shot. And this is an S0R1 Carlotta. And of course, boom! See ya, bucko! And of course, we don't even need that final shot because he's already dead. And this is the thing, right? I can optimize this clear. I could have done a lot more runs. I just wanted to show that with a level goddamn 40 Taqi, you're able to get some crazy results. And this is also the other thing. We even did it with the standard weapon. And these were our stats with the standard weapon. A 95.6% crit rate, which, if you know about crit ratios in this game, that's too much. That means that we were using a crit rate forecast with a crit rate weapon. If we had instead used a crit damage one, we'd be closer to, like, let's just be honest here, 77%, 78%, and have, literally, 270% critical damage. And so, right, this is how close we get with a crit ratio that's awful. I mean, if we have critical damage, we're done. We're done. It's cleared. we might have to reset once or twice to just make sure the final shot of Liberation crits every time, but we'd be at close to 80% crit. That's a pretty reliable way to do things for an attack that deals that much damage, right? This should be closer to maybe like 370k, if not higher, if we had been on crit damage, but we weren't. And that's the thing, right? Carlotta is this character that's not benefiting at all from the 30% attack buff, or the 30% heavy attack damage bonus, right? This isn't even like us using like a Zani or like a Gion to kind of like work around it and still gain some benefit. She literally is not gaining a damage bonus over here, right? She is basically just only using the general stuff. But because we were able to leverage this shielded effect with our Taqi rotation and apply the buffs over to the Carlotta, well, good golly gee, this thing is absolutely, right, clearing. And I'm just gonna be honest here, right? I make so many mistakes in my run that clears, it's like ridiculous. Like I have such a high room for error in my runs. I'm also using Carlotta against an AoE floor where half of her ER when grouping going on, when her specialty is single target. Her specialty is single target encounters. You can see how ungrouped these enemies are. I literally waste my liberation killing 1 or 2 guys. And I'm taking her into content that's like really, really, really rough with her. And this is the thing, right? That's how strong the buff is. But you're also able to use it with other characters. And yes, there are some people that think this is my Carlotta, right? There are some people that think that this is my account. I intentionally went on a person's account from Southeast Asia that has S0R1 to test this out. This is an S01. You can probably notice by the fact they don't have the skin on this account. And you can even see from the liberation damage on the first wave. Do you know how much my Carlotta deals? She deals 1 million damage when I use this team. Yeah, my S4 Carlotta deals 1 million damage with this. So, it's not mine. And that's what I mean, is that that's how strong the buff is that you're using level 40 characters and a Varina and still getting incredibly comfortable clears with an insane margin for error on your execution. On AoE floors that Carlotta is not good at. So that's kind of like the nature of the buff.
Did 2 first try runs and had like 50 seconds to spare on the clock. I did not lock in with Augusta on this. And if I do, I'll have, no question, I'll have 1 minute to spare on the clock. I might even have more than that if I lock in.
I agree with that. Yeah, Augusta, when played well with the buff, you're locked in. You should clear with about a whole minute left.
I was locked the fuck in on the Zani comp. I even tried Camellia, Rochia, and Shorekeeper, and this comp didn't have enough skill expression due to Camellia's spin. Where I'm going with this is
he didn't use the Camellia team because it didn't have enough skill expression with the spin. I find this to be a really difficult argument for me to like get fully geared along with, right? Is that we have kind of like the perfect example of like a meta 1.0 team, Camellia, Sanhua, Shorekeeper, right? To experiment with, to do comparisons, right? And it's like with the Zani Rover team, Zani's a character that released in 2.3, right? It's like, it's odd to think that power creep exists because we used a character from 2.3 in a very suboptimal team and then didn't use a 1.0 team with like all 1.0 characters to run the comparison. It's just, I can't, I wonder why he didn't use like a Zhang Liao Yinlin or like a Jian Mortefi or like a Camellia Sanhua or like a Jinxie Cantarella or something like that. Cause like those are all considered like complete meta teams, right? Those are all considered like complete meta teams. And I'm not really sure if like skill expression is something that necessarily matters because, well, it's like the Zani Rover team is a team that absolutely falls flat on its face unless you're doing a shit ton of swaps. Like, you have to. Otherwise, Zani doesn't get enough blaze to, like, do her attacks. And, like, the team's rotations are shorter, but there's, like, not really a lot of damage coming out, right? So it's like, this team, you're forced to play with a lot of skill expression. But it's like, you can also play a lot of those other teams with skill expression, too. You know, like, double intro Camellia, stuff like that. Or, like, you know, like, insta Sanhua rotations with quick swap, that sort of thing. It's, yeah, it's... the power creep argument with 2.3 units on the team that you're saying is power crept, and then not using a meta team for them, I'm mainly thinking there are better examples he could have shown. That's my take. I think there are many more teams he could have shown to drive the power creep argument. I just don't think this is the right one that makes a lot of sense.
Reached a baseline compromise to where the HP increase of these two mobs is now
These mobs don't have HP inflation. That's one thing I will say for sure, is that these two enemies don't really have HP inflation. There's just two of them. And the way that I'll tell you, right, is that it's pretty simple. I can just go in, and most rotations in the game will get that Dragon of Dirge to 1/2 HP in one rotation. That's basically a sign to me that there's not HP inflation on the mobs themselves. There's just more mobs, right? The wording that I think Smack used is kind of like important here, because you take any team in the game, right? Like I'll even use right over here, right? I'll take this meta team from 1.0. I'll take this meta team from 1.0, and we'll just see how much damage one rotation does on the Dragon of Dirge. And let me just make sure. And like, this is the thing, I'm even using like a naked Sanhua build. She's gonna have +0 echoes, all of that. So the damage could even be higher. And volume's off, it doesn't really matter. And I am going to be playing this team with a decent amount of skill expression to be doing like quick swaps and stuff like that during like the rotation, to do like instantaneous like intro skills, all of that. All that jazz. We'll be doing it. And you're noticing, right? I'm not even maintaining any uptime at all. Okay, I'm not maintaining like any uptime at all on the buff, on the shield buff. And that's resulting, right, in me not really dealing that much damage to it, right? It's supposed to take about 10% more with the shield actually up. And this is the thing, right? Is my Sanhua is intentionally not built. This is a very low investment team. If she's built to deal damage, or I'm using a Rosia, this thing is definitely at like 1/2 HP. This is actually my slowest clearing team on the Dragon of Dirge. That's what it looks like with a 0 investment sub DPS. Now let's see what it looks like when I do something like a... Well, you already knew this one was coming, right? Now let's see what it looks like when I use something like, let's just say, a Jian team. And naturally, right, Jian's going to benefit a little bit. He's going to have that 30% heavy attack damage bonus. Let's just see what it looks like. And of course, Mortefy's going to be on Moonlit Clouds because... This is the other unfortunate part. The Dragon of Dirge is going to be fusion resistant. So I think that this team is relatively balanced to play, simply due to the fact that while Jian's getting a 30% heavy attack damage bonus, his sub DPS is nerfed by the Dragon of Dirge's resistance. Here we go. And let's see it. And that's kind of like where we're at over here, right? Pretty close to the same amount of damage that you'll see on a Hazard 1 floor. Most bosses will take that much damage. And this is the thing, right? We're using characters with way shorter rotations and stuff like that. Jian could do way more rotations in a span of time than other teams because he has way shorter field time. And so it's like on average to kill this Dragon of Dirge, it's going to be 2 rotations for the teams that have longer rotations, and then 2.5 for pretty much the teams that have shorter ones. And the thing is that that's a pretty consistent record with what's actually in the ToA right now. That's kind of like how it is. It's 2 rotations or 2.5 rotations at full build to kill this boss. The Lampy Lumen does have more HP, but that's because we have a literal buff over here that increases your damage by up to 60%, depending on how long the fight has gone. And so the Lampy Lumen effectively also dies in roughly 2.5 rotations as well, because by the time it comes out, this buff is already in play, and the HP is only higher to balance out that buff. So essentially it is, counting by rotations, it's about 4 to 5 to typically clear. 2 minutes and 30 seconds for 4 to 5 rotations. That's usually where it's at. So that's kind of like what I mean by the whole like HP inflation point. I don't really think it's there. It's just the number of enemies has increased, and you've also gotten more time to complete the floor as well, an additional 30 seconds.
Nice, to where the HP increase of these two mobs is now a problem for you to like use older squads and still get the full clear time. Do excuse my voice, it's still recovering.
Yeah, he's talking a lot about older squads and older units. But then he's using a Zani team, a character that's in 2.3. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that what he's saying here is like incorrect, but I think that this team is a very poor example to show. If we're going to be talking about older units, power crept units, and then not use them.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better, but it's still recovering. But the rewards, I want to be fair here, as I said. It is only 100 Astrite and 100k and 240. I already know every excuse in the book that a Kurobot would make. It's only 100 Astrite. Well, get this, guys. I got a funny story for you. At one point in time in HSR, it was only 100 Astrite. Yeah, it was only floor 12 that was a problem. Then as time went on, then floor 11 became a problem for free-to-play players and casuals and people who don't spend on every signature and pull on every character.
One time, Hoyoverse made a gacha game. And so every gacha game that comes out is going to be exactly like Hoyoverse's. That's unfortunately the point that Smack's bringing up here is HSR did it. And so theoretically, Wuthering Waves doing something that HSR did, add additional endgame floors, that could mean that it, unfortunately, this is kind of going back into like the fan fiction multiversal theory stuff, is Hoyo did something. And so Kuro might do what Hoyo did because they did one thing that Hoyo did. And in this situation, in the multiversal theory that Genazad and Fob had, what Kuro did was make an open world gacha game. Because Hoyo made an open world gacha game called Genshin Impact in 2020. Kuro then made an open world gacha game in 2025. And so the theory was, oh, they'll be just as predatory as Hoyoverse because they both made gacha games. And unfortunately, like, the theory over here that I feel like is coming from Smack is HSR added new endgame and then power crept all the other floors and all that other shit. And so because Wuthering Waves added a new endgame, they might do the same thing. And that's the key word, might, right? Might. We don't necessarily know. But in a similar vein, right, we didn't know if Wuthering Waves was going to release with the same gacha system as Genshin Impact, and it never did, right? We didn't know that Wuthering Waves was going to come in with a way better gear grind than all the other Hoyoverse games, right? It's a matter of, like, this is kind of like Hoyo PTSD. And it's a significant deal, right? I'm not going to blame anybody for having Hoyo PTSD because they have literally killed all 3 of their games that are currently live, right? They killed HSR because of power creep and HP inflation. They killed Genshin because of power creep and HP inflation. And they're on the path to killing ZZZ. It's on life support right now because of power creep and HP inflation. And this is the thing, right? It's not unreasonable at all to have Hoyo PTSD, knowing that they've done that with so many of their games and they've done it so quickly. So this is the thing. I think he's raising concerns here. I think they're fair to raise, but it's also to a degree of like, the track record hasn't really been there for us to get too doom posty about it.
Then floor 10, 11, and 12 became problematic. This is the classic gacha recipe of introducing power creep. There's always going to eventually be a power creep problem. It's only a matter of when. And when it does occur, it's always a very slow ramp up. Now,
No, it's not. Just look at Genshin Impact. Genshin really had no power creep until version 5.3 when they released Mavuik and Sitlali. The damage cap in that game, like, teams were doing 60k, 70k DPS, and then Mavuik and Sitlali releases, and now teams are doing 90k, 100k. It was a little 30% rise in the max DPS of teams in one patch. So power creep being like slow, insidious, all of that, it's not true at all. And we have the biggest gacha game, one of the biggest, if not the biggest gacha game on the market, proving that to us. So yeah, I think that in the past, this is definitely true for HSR, but not for Genshin and not for ZZZ. I forgot, ZZZ, they introduced Hoshimi Miyabi. Yeah, that's another fucking example of power creep where it happened 6 months into the release of the game. Happened 6 months into the release of the game, and they released a character that did more damage than an S6 1.0 unit. M0 Miyabi was dealing more damage than M6 Ellen. We have to remember that, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, there's actually 2 examples under the Hoyo umbrella of them doing insane amounts of power creep in a very short amount of time.
Do want to say something else here, and that is, how many signature weapons do I have on this team? I have Zani Sig. I have Rover using Cheng Li's Sig. I have Shorekeeper using her Sig. And I think, had 10 seconds.
Again, this argument's a lot stronger if we use a 1.0 team. It's a lot stronger to use a 1.0 meta team than a 2.0, like, off-meta budget team. Like, this would be like using Zhang Liao with a Yang Yang. Or like a Carlotta with a Sanhua. That's kind of like what Spectral Rover with Zani is like. It's like using a mismatched sub DPS, that sort of thing.
To spare before failing the run on a comp with perfect rotations and optimizations. Up here, signature, and actually struggled to clear. I didn't clear with this comp. I didn't clear, but I didn't go as hard on this comp as I did with this. But that's my whole entire argument. Now, another thing.
Wait, was Smack saying he couldn't clear with Rosia Camellia? That team definitely clears. I mean, if he, I guess my take is that if he was gonna go through and then optimize a Zani, if he was gonna optimize a Zani Spectral Rover team to clear, he 1000% could have cleared with a Rosia Camellia team. Like 1,000,000% he could have cleared with a Rosia Camellia team if he was gonna grind a Zani Spectral Rover one out. That's I think that's a fact.
Thing I checked out is the Wallenstein check.
Yeah, it's his own issue, he said. Yeah, I think he just didn't put enough time into it.
Because this guy is looked at as like,
he's a 9 to 5 dad. This guy just said that he spent 30 tries doing a Zani Spectral Rover team. I'm merely saying that if he had allocated a similar amount of time to another team, he definitely would have cleared it with probably less retries.
Debatably the best Wuthering Waves player in the world. I think he's just one of many people who know how to play the game on the highest level. But if we take you guys at face value and we give this dude that title, he's using a free-to-play team with some caveats. He's got a signature weapon on her. He's got Shorekeeper's signature weapon. And then he's got a free-to-play Emerald of Genesis on Sanhua. That said, very impressive run. But if we take the very best player in the world, if that's the title you guys want to give him, that is 2 minutes and 44 seconds, which means it's a 14-second to spare.
I think Smack is overstating how hard this team is to play. This is a very easy team to play because Sanhua and you can't really, there's not a lot of room for skill expression with Sanhua and Shorekeeper. It's kind of just like a 1-2-3 team. There is no quicks. You do one quick swap with Sanhua, and that's it. So I guess the take over here that I think Smack is making is that Wallenstein's is a giga sweaty player. And like because of that, it's like him clearing with only 15 seconds left doesn't really mean that much, and that the average player is going to do a lot worse. The unfortunate part about I think the take that Smack is making over here is that this team doesn't have skill expression to the degree of almost any other team in the game. It is a pure 1-2-3 outro skill team, and the only skill expression you can have in this rotation is what you're doing on field with Havoc Rover. And Havoc Rover, when not played in Quick Swap, does not have very much skill expression. It's you do like a couple basic attack chains and then use your liberation. That's just like it. This is like if he was going in and he was putting in like a quick swap Lupa Chang Li Brant team with a swap every half of a second, I would understand what the point Smack's making over here. But the thing is that when it's a 1-2-3 team and then you're just cycling through outro skills and then doing basic attack rotations with Rover, yes, Wallenstein's is doing it, but a lot of other players can do exactly the same thing that Wallenstein's is doing on the screen over here. Because this isn't like this isn't a team with a high skill cap. This is a team with like a somewhat higher than average skill floor because you gotta figure out the swaps. But yeah, I think that this is not the right team to be using for the example over here.
Time before failing the run.
Havoc Rover can quick swap. It's just not used in this comp. Absolutely. If you're quick swapping with Havoc Rover in this comp, it's not playable.
This is...
Doesn't he do some echo canceling shit with Rover? So you're saying he pressed Q at the start of the rotation, then went to Shorekeeper. That's your ball busting. That's your he did this. He pressed Q and then went to the next unit. That's like that's what you're saying is like you're calling that giga sweaty. Like at the start of the reset, press Q and then swap.
The prime example of what I'm referencing. The best players that play this game aren't...
I think it would have helped a lot if Smack had played part of the Wallenstein's video, because I think when you will play part of it just to like see what it looks like. Maybe I'm entirely wrong. Maybe he is doing some wild quick swap. Maybe he is like absolutely fucking up. Maybe he's the lobby admin. Let's see. Yeah, maybe he is the lobby admin. Let's check it out. I'm sorry, guys. This is very basic gameplay so far. Yeah, this is just, it's a 1, 2, 3. No. This is a 1, 2, 3. This is a 1, 2, 3. Very, very basic gameplay. The app, it's not, this is not like, the Wallenstein's skill is not doing anything here. It's just, he's just doing basic attacks and spending the entire field time on Rover. Oh, wait, was that the swap shit you were... He pressed Q before ending his rotation. Oh, is that the crazy swap we're talking about? Hey, press... What are we doing here, guys? This is one of the most vanilla rotations I've ever seen in my life. And, like, this is what I meant by that's not a lot of HP inflation. That's the damage that Wallenstein's dealt with that rotation. And again... Yeah, that's a very basic one. So that's what I meant by there's not a lot of quick swap. There's not a lot of like wild shit going on. That's not really like, I think this is the thing with this video. I think the points that Smack is making, they're not wrong. They're not necessarily wrong. It's just the examples that he's shown kind of like, I don't think they're reinforcing his point that well.
Aren't even comfortably clearing this tower with maximum skill expression. That play this game aren't even comfortably clearing this tower with maximum skill expression.
It's like, this is not really skill expression though. He's just doing basic attacks. Like, he's just doing basic attacks. Hold up, buddy. Why don't you try that team? Guys, yeah, I'm literally telling you, mine might not do as much damage as Wallenstein's, but like it's a very easy rotation to do. It's literally just a basic 1, 2, 3. That's like it. So I guess I'll put on my Camellias. Yeah, I guess I'll put on this Havoc Rover set. I don't have a Dreamless. Do I have a Dreamless? Oh my fucking... I fucking do. Wait, this thing is cracked. Yeah, okay, I've got a decent set. I've got a decent set to run it with. It's just, yeah, it's not, this isn't like a, the team is not hard to play is the main thing. Use Verena as well. Why do I have to use Verena when Wallenstein's is literally using a shorekeeper? Can you explain to me why you're asking me to change the team comp now? Is it because you're brain dead, or like what's like, why are you asking me to change the team comp now? First you asked me to play Rover, now you're asking me to use a worse support at the same time. When Havoc Rover really needs to land crits. It's like, guys, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? The thing is, there's even a sweaty way that you can play Havoc Rover too. That's the funny part, is that you can play Havoc Rover in a giga sweaty way by playing it with Dan Jin and doing a quick swap with that. I mean, yeah, we could just, like, this is the thing. It's like, this is literally what Wallenstein's is doing. He starts off with a skill,
Lotus pervade.
and then goes over to Sanhua to do this cancel.
Let him roll with time.
Then he does this,
Stay behind me.
and then he does this. Then he transforms. They're like, it doesn't really like matter when you're using the attacks. It's just he's doing like some dodges and stuff that I'm not doing because I'm like dog shit with this character. And that's basically it. He's just doing more dodges and stuff while on field. You'll notice I maintain no uptime on the buff. That's basically it. I just that's the rotation. It's Wallenstein's is going in, and I guess the skill expression is like dodging and stuff. But the rotation itself, this is not like a sweaty one.
Worry not.
Cycle of like frigid death.
I engraft you new.
Stay behind me.
Vigor. Down with the curtain.
Yeah, Wallenstein's just does more damage than mine. Because I think my Havoc Rover isn't even maxed out, and once again, I am using a naked Camellia.
Stay behind me. Shackles be gone. A chance to
None shall whisper.
Or, sorry, a naked Sanhua.
Vigor.
But yeah, this is like... yeah, it's basically like this. It just does more damage.
Let him roll with time.
And yeah, he might do like a double outro, right? To be able to get Rover's stuff faster.
Lotus pervade.
Like this. But yeah, otherwise it's like, it's because you're like generating Rovers for what I'm saying is that this isn't like a crazy team to figure out. And it's not like he's doing like quick swap or anything wild like that. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, is that this is not like a crazy skill expression team. I feel like if you played any Wuthering Waves, you would know the take that I'm making right now. That isn't like some wild skill expression going on. All right, I need to exit out. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Wallenstein's Rover is just like giga fucking. I want to see what his investment is. Why does his? I feel like my stats aren't even like.
I will be there for everyone as we head toward our shared future, leaving the past behind.
He has about 200 more attack than I do. 4% more crit rate, 2% more crit damage. And I'm also going in with 7 on resonance skill, 6 on normal attack. Though it shouldn't matter too much. My Sanhua has... Let's see what my Sanhua's investment is.
I should try
Okay,
to
she's
found
literally
one.
doing nothing.
Like this?
And his Sanhua is fully built. So, yeah, that's probably just where some of the deltas are in the team and the performance. Yeah, that's probably just where it is over there. So this is what I mean. It's like, I don't think that's a... I'm just saying, I don't think this is like a wild ball busting earth-shattering. Like, crazy giga sweaty. Does he also have Shorekeeper Sig? Ah, so yeah, Shorekeeper Sig for another attack buff too. Okay. Hopefully you're beginning... That's also benefiting the Sanhua's damage as well. So, hopefully you're beginning to see exactly why there's a difference between our performance levels, at least in terms of the amount of damage that each rotation is doing. Clearly, we're going into it with a similar level of investment on our rovers, but the gameplay itself is not anything that is blowing anybody's socks off.
Investment. That guy's Havoc Rover is cracked. 322 crit damage. Like I said, Sig on her, Sig on shore. We're talking about a lot of investment here with maximum skill poured into the game, and we're
I think the skill part is irrelevant.
barely clearing.
Yeah, I think the skill part I think that's just a well-invested rover doing vanilla rotations.
Whereas Augusta and Mortef are clearing with a minute left on the clock, or even more if you take the same maximal skill and apply it to that.
Yep.
There's no denying that HP inflation and power creep combined have been introduced with this latest update.
I think that the buff makes Augusta feel incredibly strong, but that's mainly that I feel like the buff makes the characters that can use the buff really strong. I don't consider that power creep because it's just a buff. I guess I take a look at this, right? I've done Augusta, right? This is the thing. I've used Augusta in the middle tower, right? I've used Augusta on this floor where she gains no benefit at all from the buff. And I'm going to be real with you guys. Like the Augusta Mortefi team doesn't actually do that much damage. Like, I'll just show you all. Mortefi on Moonlit Clouds. Like, how much damage one rotation onto the Fallacy of No Return does. We'll wait for some Majesty over here. Great. And again, we'll just be using the most vanilla rotation ever on this team. The same one that's probably being used in the Hazard Tower right now.
Burn! Burn to ashes!
Conquest begins now. In control. Invincible! In one strike. Set top for the eternal sun! Yeah. My valor never fails. In control.
That's...
Now from the soul.
I need to do 2.5 rotations, basically, to kill this guy. That does around half its HP. If you want, like, a comparison, right? We can see how much, like, a Zhangli... Like, I don't think this character deals, like, an extraordinary, absurd, like, ridiculous amount of damage. That's basically what I'm saying. It's like, maybe we just use, like, a Zhangli Yao team for comparison. Fuck it. Yeah, maybe we use a Zhangli Yao team for comparison. Shit, why not? Do I have a Yinlin set? I wonder what these guys look like against the Fallacy. I'm gonna be real. I haven't tested this one out. I haven't really tested this one out. I'm actually curious. I'm actually pretty damn curious to see how it does. 74.5%. With Shorekeeper, that's pretty good. And then our Zhangli Yao is gonna be over here. Let's give him his Sig. Let's also make sure he's on the right set. Augusta is stealing his pieces. Let's take them back. Yeah, let's see how this one goes.
Worry not. Let I engraft you new.
Tear them to pieces. I've had enough. Get lost.
Fury of elimination! Pierce through the stars. Reconfiguration!
Bro missed his crit. Yeah, that's the biggest nuke in his kit. He cannot miss that. I'm just gonna be... He cannot miss that, and this would be like Augusta missing her crit during her rotation. Right? Like, that's illegal gameplay, essentially. Yeah, that is illegal gameplay for him to miss his crit like that. So, yeah.
Zap string. It's our curtain call.
Obey. Theory of elimination.
There.
Boom! Don't miss it! There we go.
Conditions up. Complete over.
I mean,
From the soul.
it's a little bit less than Augusta, for sure.
Astral modulation.
It's a little bit less. My Echo skill also completely disappeared into a different dimension.
Your time is over.
But yeah, that's what it looks like over there in terms of the damage. So yeah, it's the same 3 rotations to clear. Yeah, and then the Echo missed the attack as well. That's a nice burst of damage. But that's what I mean when it comes to Augusta's actual relative performance in the ToA. Is that, yeah, it's just, when she's on that Mortifi team and stuff like that, definitely the team that absolutely ass wipes floors 3 and 4 currently. We're using the worst sub DPS in the game with what I also consider the worst main DPS in the game, and it's still clearing in the same number of rotations on that floor 1 without a shield buff for either character. That's my take. It's also been like 10 years since I played Zhang Liao and Yinlin, so their gameplay was a little bit rusty.
But let's take a look at my showcases now. This will be a bit lengthy only because that's how long the fights are. It will be a bit lengthy. You will enjoy it if you're a Zani player because I'm just doing everything the way you're supposed to be doing it. All the
I personally don't, I don't mean this in any way to try to like disregard what Smack did during his rotations or the work that he put in. I merely think that using a intentionally suboptimal budget Zani team that isn't meta by any means to drive the argument that older units have been power crept is a little, it doesn't like light up to me. So I don't really see how anything in this I don't really see how this showcase reinforces the point that older units, I'm talking about like the 1.x ones, aren't really that strong. I'm quite curious as to how he plays the team, then go watch the video yourself. What I'm saying over here is that I don't see how the 1.x team argument gets reinforced by this gameplay over here. So I think he does a great job. I've seen bits of it myself. He plays it very well. He does all the right swaps, gets a great time, does all of these things. It's just, this isn't a meta, this was never a meta team. And this isn't even a 1.0 team. So I don't really see the argument that older units are power crept from this footage. That's my take. So I've already seen it. I don't think there's a point in like critiquing it or like diving too much into it. We'll just get to see what the rest of his arguments are. Because yes, he plays this team very well. He plays very sweaty. He does a lot of swaps and he clears with around, I think, 15 seconds left with this team.
Now, boys, that Zani comp with that level of skill expression before this update was a sub 1 minute clear time on a boss. No, it easily sub 1 minute clear time on a boss. Probably 50-second clear time on a boss. So when you look at that performance there and you see that it took me more than 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 20 seconds actually to clear both bosses, that is objective evidence of
you have more time to clear the ToA stages, and there's more enemies. But I don't think that the HP, and I don't think that the enemies necessarily have more HP. The fact that Augusta's clearing so fast with a shield buff, I think is evidence that there's not really an HP inflation issue. There's just simply more enemies have been added, so the total HP of the floor is higher. But it's not necessarily like the individual mobs themselves are taking longer to kill.
Of HP inflation. I made use of the shield on my Zani to do all of her ults. That shield was never not on her when she was popping off during her ult. It was on. So I made use of the buff that they provided to circumvent HP inflation, and I still did not comfortably clear that tower. This is just something I want to make sure people are aware of abundantly. You cannot deny HP inflation.
I think that Smack making the argument about comfortably clearing is relevant because the team he's using is very sweaty and requires a lot of optimization to play. But to drive the argument that there's power creep, you gotta use an older team. You gotta use an older meta team. you gotta use a Jian Mortefi team, you gotta use a Zhang Liao Yinlin team, you gotta use a Camellia Sanhua, Camellia Rosia team. Or you gotta use a Carlotta Jeja team, right? Those are some of the earlier releases, right? Carlotta's released in January of this year. I consider her somewhat older. It's like, you gotta be using one of the older teams that were considered top of the meta, in my opinion, to drive the take that the new meta teams of nowadays have power crept the old ones. Not take a 2.3 off meta budget team and then compare it to the meta team of the present. I don't really think that I don't really think that it's like a, I don't really think it's like a comparison that makes a ton of sense over here.
Absolutely exists. Power creep absolutely exists. I want to just play Augusta's run in the background. I don't think it's something worth watching. I didn't like get sweaty on it, so it's not like a perfect run with perfect rotations and swap backs. Just watch it in the background and watch the time completion. I'm just like doing my thing first try, by the way. But I do want to mention the Vigor cost, right? We got 2 new floors, but the Vigor cost remains intact. And so this is a big problem for newer players and people who don't spend a lot of money on the game. You don't have signatures. If you use my Zani comp, no SIGs on Zani and freaking Spectral Rover and Shorekeeper. Oh, brother, that 10 seconds remaining on the clock, you kiss that goodbye. You ain't getting that 3-star clear. And once again, you might be thinking to
I think this is my take. If you're a newer player, I don't think that there's a tremendous, massive issue as long as you're able to do stuff like this. As long as you're able to take a level 40 Taqi and a Verena, and you build one character on your team, Carlotta, who was also available on banner, I think 3 times in the last 7 months. In the last 9 months, Carlotta has been on banner 3 times. That's a lot. I think the expectation is that a lot of new players have her, if they don't have her already. You got that. You pair her with Verena and Taqi. You put her on Static Mist and you'll clear. I don't think the new player issue is as much of a concern if the new player is willing to think meta-wise, look up guides, and then find ways to utilize very free-to-play options to be able to clear. Because naturally, right, a newer player is not going to have access to a lot of characters. But believe me when I say this, it's not like you were using your Taqi on other floors, right? It's not like you were going to use this unit in other situations. So the Vigor cost is kind of like irrelevant over here, right? From this perspective, because as long as we have buffs that are very, very, very free to play accessible, you can kind of just put in a character that literally has 0 investment. This ain't like a ZZZ, right? This ain't like a ZZZ or HSR situation where the character has to be raised to level 90. You got to spend all the stamina, weight plates, or constrained resources to level them up for their buffing ability to work. In Wuthering Waves, you can put in level 30 characters and gain the full benefit of their outro skill or the mechanic that you're trying to max out. Right? And so it's like there's way more options to use budget units as long as the new player is willing to get a little bit sweaty. And my take is that if you're a new player that has no roster, I don't think it's too much of an ask for you to go slightly out of your way, knowing that you haven't been playing the game for very long, to look up guides, look up resources, look up ways to very affordably clear the ToA. And if you're not willing to do that, look up the affordable ways to clear, I don't feel like there's too much of like a new player ding if they're not willing to put in the effort just to look up teams they can use, right? So, and when you're able to do it with level 40 characters with no investment, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's not a new player barrier to use a level 40 unit. It's you spend about 20 wave plates and you can get them to level 40.
to yourself, well, it's just 100 Astrite. Gacha games never give them a fucking inch on this stuff.
I think that's a fair take to make if this was a Hoyoverse game. If ZZZ added floors 8 and 9 to Shiyu defense, 100%, right? I'd be concerned, given the track record of the company, right? But in the case of Wuthering Waves, where they do a lot of things opposite to what Hoyoverse does. Guys, have you ever thought about this, right? I've made a lot of statements about this. Why does Augusta have 2 liberations? Why can Augusta cast her liberation twice? My reasoning for it is, maybe it's a cool part of her kit, but when you read Jian's signature, you're required to use your intro skill or liberation to max it out. And wouldn't it have sucked if Augusta only had 1 liberation that she used at the end of her rotation, and so she wasn't able to activate half of Jian's weapon until the end of her rotation? Instead, she has a baseline liberation she can use right at the beginning to immediately activate Jian's weapon and gain its full buffs as soon as she enters the field. And Yuno can do the same exact thing with Jian's weapon, or with Zhang Liao's weapon. And so the take for me is Kuro is intentionally designing new character kits to synergize perfectly with 1.0 weapons, when literally they did not need to. They could have made Augusta's first liberation require like a heavy attack or something like that, and not have it be considered a liberation cast. And it would have done the same exact thing, except she can't use Jian's weapon as well as she can right now. But they intentionally designed the kits of hers and Yuno's to synergize almost perfectly with 1.0 character weapons. And that means, right, that players that invested back then, it's very veteran friendly, very like low spender or even free to play friendly if they did something like pull Zhang Liao's Sig when he was free in version 1.2. And so when I see all these things that Kuro is doing to intentionally make, I'm just gonna be honest here, make it more free to play friendly, or make it more low spender friendly, and actually disincentivize you from pulling a character signature, I'm literally telling people, if you have this, don't pull this. I'm literally telling everybody, if you have this, Verity's handle, don't pull this, because the results are so comparable to each other, regardless of the weapon that you use. And I can't really view that as the actions of a predatory company. Because if it was truly as predatory as, well, we're theorizing that it could be by relating it to how HSR ruined their endgame, then I don't think they would have done this. I think they would have made it so that they don't work as well with the 1.0 characters' weapons, but they did. So with that kind of like backing in mind, I think that the whole, HSR added new endgame and then did all this other shit that killed their endgame. And so when Wuthering Waves adds an endgame, they're also going to do all the shit that kills their endgame. But they added new characters and then made them synergize perfectly with 1.0 unit weapons. So it's like they're already breaking the trend, right? That's my point of view on it.
Because it starts off that way and then it ramps up more and more. And if you let them get away with it, it's just going to get worse. It always does. Why? It's very simple.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think that they're getting away with anything right now. If they were to go ahead and then HP inflate floors 1 and 2, and then make floors 1 and 2 feel like you also have to pay money as well to clear, then yeah, I think that's like a point where we're telling them to we're letting them get away with stuff. But right now, on the first iteration, I don't think we're anywhere near the point of like, oh, they're like getting away with like doing bad stuff. I don't think that's actually occurring.
Once they start fully fleshing out rosters, right? The game's been out for over a year. You now have your Fire teams, your Spectro teams, Ice teams, Havoc teams. When they start releasing characters of the same elements, you have little incentive to pull on them because, well, what the fuck would I pull on them for? I can clear all content just fine. That's the mentality a lot of people have. So these gacha devs go, we raise the HP, and
if we use this reasoning, then the weapons wouldn't have worked out. Then this weapon wouldn't work that well on Yuno, right? Because right now, the question in every player's mind is, what reason do I have to pull Yuno's signature? What reason do I have to pull Augusta's signature if I already have Jian or Zhang Liao's? So I don't think that argument really works in the context of Wuthering Waves, because that's literally the question that every person is asking right now.
when we introduce more powerful units, they're going to be incentivized to pull on the newer units. It's a tale as old as time in this space. And that's how it becomes a problem.
So, do you see how I'm talking about it here? He's talking about the tale as old as time. He's talking about the track record of prior gacha companies, right? In fucking up, being predatory, doing all of this stuff. And then we have Kuro games in the present literally doing the exact opposite and creating weapons that are literally 5, 6, 7% better and absolutely not worth pulling at all if you have another character signature as an alternative. Like, there's no point in pulling Augusta or Yuno Sig if you have the 1.0 character's weapons.
That baseline gets compromised. This is the first cheek shown by the company. Now, do I think it's worth like going up and up?
This is where it is. He's theory crafting right now. And I think this is where he clarifies this future that he was talking about before of things that could happen.
Arms and putting your pitchforks out about it. Y'all could go for it, sure, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just...
And that's kind of like the... I think that's kind of like the main conclusion that is in this video over here. These are all things that could happen because of the track record of the gacha space, but it's not that big of a deal right now. And I personally think with the additional glue that we brought in, actually showing the track record of Kuro Games with these characters, I don't really think it's that much of a concern. Even more, because we literally have the evidence. We have the evidence right here that they're doing the opposite of what the track record of gacha typically is. But we're warning about it here.
Something I want to point out, to be aware of, to be conscious of, and take note of it as time progresses, because these gacha companies are slick as fuck at doing it very, very slowly and surely. And
I will say, though, I feel like Smack's going to get some shit for this take because some people's conclusion from his Augusta weapon video was that it wasn't strong enough. that it wasn't that is the take from some people after watching his video, is that her weapon isn't strong enough, right? So it's like I do see, we've already naturally clarified that he was talking more about its effect, but there are still some people saying to this day that he wishes it was like more pay to win, when that's not actually his take. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions that can occur. They might be saying he's actually like doom posting. I'm just here to clarify. And once again, with all the research and the examples that we're showing, I don't think he's thinking like that. It's just he is being overly cautious. I think he's being overly cautious, right? Putting a lot of skepticism into things that could happen. But this is the thing, guys. Can you blame him when he's played and quit all 3 Hoyoverse games? I have this same level of skepticism towards ZZZ. And I was right. Because ZZZ was a game made by Hoyoverse. And they did the same exact shit in ZZZ that they did to kill HSR and to kill Genshin's Endgame. But Wuthering Waves is not a game made by Hoyoverse. And so I am of the opinion that having this level of skepticism doesn't really make that much sense, because Kuro has literally been doing the opposite of Hoyo in a lot of different situations.
Real. I didn't even say this or show this on stream or on recording yet, but the Wuthering Waves, I noticed there was a similar trend. I tried it off stream with my Camellia comp, and I was not comfortably clearing. I was literally very much sweating to get that 2,500 points.
Weewa is something where you gotta practice it a bit more. You gotta practice Weewa a bit more, especially with the Burning Waves buff, to find out how to optimize it properly. Let's just say that Jian is a top tier character in that game mode right now. Yeah, I've been playing some Jian, Chikona, Yuno teams. They're pretty much ass wiping the game mode currently. But you could say that's because of Yuno. I think it's because, honestly, I think it's because of just her healing. That's mainly it for me. But yeah, Jian is now back on top of the meta for that game mode.
Another signal. Now, it's on the very final floor only where I run into these problems, but it's still been slowly introduced into the game. And so I confidently and honestly can say Wuthering Waves at Kuro Games has ripped a page straight out of Hoyoverse's book from Honkai Star Rail, and they have introduced a similar fashion as HSR's MOC format.
I think that's it. I don't think he's necessarily, that's not the wording that I would use, but this is basically the take. HSR added new floors to his endgame, and then Wuthering Waves also added new floors to the ToA. That's essentially it, right? I do think, like, naturally there's a lot more implications with the sort of hyperbolic statement that he's making. It is what it is, but that is genuinely at its core. That's what it is. And so that's why I led with that example of, oh, Hoyo made an open world game and so did Kuro. They ripped a page out of Hoyo's book. It's like, you know, Hoyo added a white hair DPS. It looks like Kuro ripped a page out of Hoyo's book when they added in Jinsei, right? And so that means that because they added a white hair DPS, they're going to have the same amount of power creep. It's like, this is the thing. It's like they both did something like add a new endgame mode. I don't think that necessarily means, especially with Kuro's track record, that they're going to put in the same exact power creep and the same exact HP inflation and the same exact bullshit that HSR does in its endgame. Because you know what HSR does in its endgame? They allow you to play your 1.0 team once a year. Because the buffs are so hyper-specific in HSR that you literally cannot activate them unless you are one of like 3 characters on the 100-character roster. So it's kind of just like when Wuwa's first introduction of like a Giga endgame buff is a buff that at least most characters in the game can take some advantage of. I don't think that that's really a fair comparison to make. And I guess the thing is, it's really just mainly a wording thing over here. And I know a couple of people got upset by that one. But I just want to say, I think he has Hoyo PTSD. And that's not an insult. I think a lot of people have Hoyo PTSD. I have Hoyo PTSD. Except my Hoyo PTSD is isolated to Hoyoverse games. I don't really let it extend to Wuthering Waves because I just see what's going on in WoWa and I don't really see how or why I need to have those same concerns.
Older units have absolutely fallen off in power, which
And this is why I said I think it's rough to be using that Zani team over here as reinforcement of the argument that's being made, because this is not like an older team, right? And so to compare it to Augusta with the buff and say older units are not at the power level, but then not use one, right? It kind of like isn't. This is why I said it makes a lot more sense to use a Gion team, right? To use a Jinsi team, to use a blah, blah, blah team. But right now, this is, most people are just going to say, this is, Zani just sucks with only Rover. Zani with Rover is not a meta team, blah, 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 all of that. And this is more of just like a wholly Zani issue. This seems like more of just like a wholly Zani specific issue than like an older unit issue. In comparison. So that's why I said just it would have been better if you just used like a Camellia team or something like that.
I have noticed for some time, but once again, it was never a problem because the baseline was fine. We now see that first sign of that baseline raised, and now those older units that have fallen off have now started to shoot.
And this is the thing. It's hard to take those points at face value when we didn't do any comparisons at all or show any gameplay of those older teams specifically.
Their weaknesses.
All we had was an off-meta team from version 2.3, which was like 3 or 4 months ago.
Augusta is freakishly fucking strong, man. I mean, she like does a Griffin slam for like 250k. It's like, bro, what? And then she does her ult, slicing for 35 to 40.
Yo, guys, look at this broken 2.0. Look at this broken character from 9 months ago. Look at how much damage this character from 9 months ago is dealing. Wait, let's see it. Let's see it. Check this one out. Here and there. But as you can see, we don't really check this 9-month-old character's damage with a level 40 unit. We have an ER issue in this clear. No real ER issue. We did also. Oh my god, she hit 200k with the first shot of her lib. So that's 200k. Yeah. Another 100k, so that's 300k total. Should be at 400k if that first one crit. The impermanence Heron though. 500k, and you can see 600k. Right? Oh, plus this is looking really. Okay, so that Carlotta Liberation at S0R1 did 1 million plus damage. That was also unbuffed by the Impermanence Heron. So this S0R1 Carlotta with Verena and Taqi on her team did 1 million damage with her Liberation. Total damage. That should probably go up to 1.1 with an Impermanence Heron active. That's how strong the buff is. But this is one of, like, I will say, if you have Carlotta, it is one of the most free-to-play accessible buffs in the game. And if you're still saying this is S3... you're so brain dead, it's unbelievable, because this is not my account. And you would be able to clearly tell because of the fucking UID. It's literally not mine. My UID has like 4 zeros in it. This is my account. You can clearly see it's not my account. I don't know how many times I have to keep repeating this. Like, you guys could just play this team yourself a single time, but instead, you want to cope and say it's not real and say it's an S4 Carlotta. When, like, it's so easy to tell that it's not and that it's somebody else's account. But I get the same comment over and over because I don't think people can handle the idea that a gacha game dev made a somewhat general buff that older units can use and completely 100% steamroll with. I feel like that is frustrating Hoyoverse players because they're seeing, oh, fuck, a dev can actually make their endgame buffs accessible to more than one person on the roster. But I'm playing HSR, ZZZ, and Genshin, and those buffs are only accessible to 1 or 2 people on the roster. Fuck, this sucks. It's just like, guys, what are we doing here?
40k, boom, 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 and then ults for 300k. Like during this shit, it's just
That Carlotta I just showed dealt more damage than what Smack just said, by the way. Maybe they actually that was a lot of damage though. I will tell you. That was a fuck ton of damage that in that Carlotta clip.
it's like the amount of damage she's doing effortlessly is
I'm playing Carlotta, so that was also done effortlessly too.
just a blatant power creep slap in the face. You know
Carlotta's 9 months old.
what I mean?
So this is kind of like what I mean is that, like, I really think Smack is, like, viewing the buff as, like, he's factoring the buff in way too much into, like, this whole, like, power creep take. That's my personal opinion on it, because I'm able to do the same thing with a level 40 Taqi.
So I think this is something worth being aware of. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is if you do want to clear this tower and you are struggling, you absolutely have to manage your side floors with, like, you have to be quite frugal with what you're doing, right?
You need about 3.5 teams to clear the TOA. I consider the stuff he's doing with John Shin and Calcharo as half of a team.
Like Calcharo, Kung Fu Panda Calcharo, and then I use the Zani team right here. You can even be more frugal than this. You could do just
all right. Yeah, we've already covered this. I actually have a video coming out on this exact stuff later on, so I think we can skip the tip for now.
now got into the game. You're not gonna have Yao or Yinlin, right? And so you're gonna be using some weird ass wonky shit and struggling even further. This is way more of a problem for new players and casuals than it is for veterans. Veterans, our accounts are fully fleshed out. I'm using 3 different team comps here, right? So it's not even a big of an issue to me.
I think that's where you can bring in the whole it's only 100 Astrite take, is if the end game, let's just say theoretically, stays exactly the same for the next 6 months, then every new player will, based off of the fact that veterans now can easily clear, every new player will be able to clear as well. And so the whole it's only 100 Astrite, I know people may like or dislike that. New players will be able to clear relatively quickly. And so theoretically, if these 2 new floors are the only thing preventing them from full clearing, then that's the situation where the new players are only losing 100 Astrite every month. And I'm gonna be real, if you're a new player right now, maybe it takes you like 5 months. It'd probably take you 3 months at max, I think, to go from a 30-star clear to a 36-star clear. That's my take. Because that's the problem, right? That's the only reasonable issue that could occur. Somebody that is currently clearing 30 out of 30 stars, and then the 2 new floors are added, and so now they can only get 30 out of 36, right? Because otherwise, the old TOA was just a problem for new players as well. You could apply the same exact argument, right? So these 2 new floors, the only issues that can be present are for people that can't go from 30 out of 36 to 36 out of 36. Unless it was an issue since the release of the game, but I don't think it's been an issue since the release of the game. So it can't really become an issue now. It's only for the people that are going from 30 to 36. And I genuinely think it should only take you about 2 to 3, maybe 4 months to go from 30 to 30 out of 30 to 30 or 30 out of 36 to 36 out of 36. And from that point of view, it is quite literally 2 pulls that you would be missing out on as you catch up from a 30 out of 36 to a 36 out of 36. So from a numerical argument, I think that's where the Astrite count becomes relevant, because yeah, if it takes you 3 months to catch up, then I guess you lost out on 1 pull or 2 pulls. Damn. Shit, that's fuck.
But, you know, you guys, you don't have that horizontal investment, and so you're going to be fucking cooked. A whole year, more than a whole year has gone by. This TOA has received...
Again, that is only under the assumption that it takes you 3 months to catch up for the new floors. It could take you much less. Assume, like, maybe you decide to build older characters on your account and get it done faster. But yeah, over three or 4 months, you should be able to build out the last team that you would theoretically need for it, if you needed another team.
Fuck all for buffs or updates. And the update they finally do is just the exact same shit. 2 new floors, increase the HP. It's a classic Hoyo tale, bro.
Okay, I think he's pushing it here.
Increase the HP, make the...
There's not an HP increase. It's just there's more mobs. You got more time to clear it. And I'm just going to be real. This is probably... The TOA buff that's currently live is one of the most unique buffs I've ever seen. This is probably one of the best buffs they've ever introduced. It's you either use the character that automatically generates shields, or you dodge perfectly and then maintain uptime on it. I think a lot of people requested, right, that the ToA becomes more skill-based, that the ToA becomes like more of like a skill check to be able to get good scores. And then this is like if you don't pass this skill check over here, you lose 10% damage on your run. And that can be the difference between you clearing and not clearing. So it's like, people were saying it was a rotation simulator and too easy before, but now it's like, now it has like the skill check mechanic that I feel like a lot of people were asking for. And so that's just my point of view. I feel like this take by Smack goes against the common criticisms that I've heard. I've always liked the ToA, right? I keep my ears open to how people critique the game mode. I've always enjoyed it. I've always had fun with it. I look forward to every reset. And this situation over here is, it seems like they were answering the concerns that many people had. So I guess the take that it's like exactly the same with more HP when it's just, I guess technically there's more HP totals, but it's just more mobs with more time added and then unique buffs that are a skill check.
Newer units stronger and do the exact same shit we've already been doing. I mean, like, brother, if this was your update after a whole goddamn year and I'm supposed to be impressed or excited about this, I'm sorry, I'm not. Yeah, it's a whole.
I think he's letting his Hoyo PTSD really influence a lot of the... I think this is my theory crafting. This is my headcanon, right? It feels like the kind of like doomer cautiousness, being aware of like the stuff that could get fucked up because of the prior track record of gacha. It feels like that is really souring his opinion on the ToA because he just sees new floors, he sees they're harder, and he's just like, this is exactly like HSR. This game's gonna get fucked like HSR. It feels like that is really influencing and kind of like causing a lot of negativity for him in regards to his opinion on the ToA, based off the fact, right, that yes, those games got fucked. Those games feel so bad to play now. And so it's just a matter of like, I feel like this is definitely a wait and see moment for me. I want to see what the next set of buffs are. I personally don't think that there's any huge major issues in this ToA. My biggest critique for it is this boss sucks dick. This Lampy Lumen Myriad is actually cancerous. That's my take. They fucked up putting this boss in there because it is literally character unfriendly. I have never seen a boss of this scope where it makes you feel like you're getting a nerf just for using a character that you like. And this is my opinion. This is the biggest problem in the fucking ToA. It's this bastard's moveset. It's just, it needs to be adjusted, needs to be fixed. If he never shows up in floors 3 or 4 again, I'm celebrating, brother. I'm cracking open a cold one after that shit. Fuck this guy. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I don't think this ToA is perfect. But I do have fun with it as long as I'm not fighting this fucking freak right here. Fuck this guy. So, yeah, that's my take on it.
Pack of ass, as Joe Button would say. That's gonna wrap up my thoughts. I look forward to anybody getting upset at me keeping it a buck as always. He's loving.
And this is the thing. I don't think Smack's lying here. I don't think he's necessarily... I think he's playing up stuff a little bit. I think he's being like a little bit dramatic. But underneath that, I do think he has some solid points that are definitely being raised. But I don't think like... I don't really view the Augusta Mortifi team as anything absurdly ridiculous or crazy. Augusta Yuno, on the other hand, maybe that's a bit of a conversation to have, but you kind of need Yuno's... your Yuno kind of has to be built for you to really feel that. I mean, built with like a SIG, otherwise Mortifi's pretty similar. It's just, there's a lot of like... I think there's a lot of like nuggets of truth. I think there's definitely like some good points to talk about. I think that, yes, older units do feel worse in this ToA, but that's because older units have movesets that are getting abused by this fucking boss. It's not really a damage issue for me. I don't think the damage of the old units is a concern. It's like the fact that some of the enemies don't interact well at all with the older unit kits. And it makes them feel bad from that degree. But damage-wise, I don't really share that opinion because I don't feel like the damage is much of a concern for me. It is try 1.0 DPSs in the 3rd floor. All right. We'll do one demo run. Let me go see who wrote that chat. All right. So, if I get a good time with the Gian team, I'm going to permanently ban you, okay? That's going to be the deal. Are you ready? This will be the final bonus of the day. You know what? I'll even do this. I'll use a 1.0 team and a 1.0 Echo. You'll get the bonus today, bro. I won't even use the Nightmare Echo on Gian. I'll use the fucking regular monkey. With worse crit stats. I'll use this thing. Are you ready? SK is not 1.0. I'm pretty sure they mean 1.x because the only characters that would then be legible or that the only characters that would be possible would be fucking Gian, Encore, Calcharo, and Ling Yang. Because there's no other DPSs aside from them. All right.
Inferno.
Lion graft you.
Fury boils. As you wish.
Ah, shit. I messed up. I forgot I was using the old Echo. Give me a second here.
Astral modulation. Low
Fury boils. Now till truth. Inferno. Feel my wrath. Let's steer wide open this and unstock.
Yeah, let's do it. What is this guy like? Okay, that was some awful grouping over there too. You all saw that, right? Like that guy like barely fucking separated at like the worst fucking moment.
Fury boils. Till truth is solid. Burn to ashes. Let's do it. Ready for battle.
Okay. Bugged intro skill. Bugged intro skill.
stay calm.
You're noticing I'm not really resetting because of anything wild. It's like actually some fucked up shit that's going on. Yeah, if my intro skill that I need to use to deal any damage is like bugging out, what am I gonna do, guys?
You're wide open. Fear no more.
And you're seeing right now, oh wow, this clear looks better.
Inferno. As you wish. Tell truth.
Astral modulation. Loaded.
Fury boils. Burn to ashes. Let's do ready for battle. Unstoppable.
There we go.
Break.
Vow.
I don't know. Is this 1.0 unit looking like shit, guys?
Please burn.
Loaded. In war with
If
time.
anything, I need to get better at my shorekeeper. It's she's kind of like
Now, tell truth.
got some delays in her rotation.
Let's do your wide open. This enough. Fear no more.
And unfortunately,
Ordained.
I kind of tried being a little bit too skillful over there. Kind of like grief my rotation a little bit.
Inferno.
Loaded. Iron graft.
Yeah, I tried to be a little bit fancy over there. That didn't work out too well.
Tell truth. Burn to ashes. Let's do that. You're wide open. Another way.
Oh, and missed again!
Unstoppable.
I don't know, Chatter. Are you ready to get banned? Just wondering.
In war.
I'm just wondering.
Ready for battle. Tell truth to the sun. Silence! Let's do your wide open this another way. Fear no more. Break!
He said 15 seconds left, and yeah. We missed an intro skill, and that's 15 plus seconds left. I literally missed my intro skill on Gian in that clear and extended it by like 7 more seconds to get the energy that my intro skill should have given me, but it missed. And so that is actually like 5 seconds faster. So it's actually like 20 seconds above the time with a literal pure 1000% 1.0 build on the character. We don't even use a Nightmare Echo.
The battlefield
I am
is
literally
dynamic.
using
Do
a
not let it go.
1.0 Sonata set. I also fucked up my SK. Sat there for 2 seconds because I should have done her liberation sooner in the rotation. I sit there for like 3 seconds looking at my keyboard. She's at full concerto, but there's 3 seconds left on her liberation cooldown. So I can optimize that even more. So I can probably get this done with 30 seconds left if I did everything and I practiced and I kept performing it. But instead, I just did it first time for fun. And so, to be like bitching and moaning this much and making takes like this, let's just be honest, guys. What are we doing? This is why I said upload gameplay of those 1.0 teams. That's why I was saying it would have been so much more beneficial if Smack, instead of showing an off-meta budget team that everyone recognizes is not like up to snuff with other meta teams. Literally, this team is worse, right? This team is worse than Gian Mortefi, Shorekeeper, right? It's worse than Zhang Liao. It's worse than all these other lineups, right? And it's like, I feel like that's where the take that older units aren't doing as well. I feel like it doesn't make that much sense if we're not going to show gameplay of the older units. Because that's what gameplay with the older units looks like. I think they're strong points, but I think it's not the great evidence, not the great arguments to reinforce them. And unfortunately, it is leading to some people who, you know, simply aren't educated about the game to be saying stuff like this, going ahead, stating as a fact that 1.0 characters can't clear. They're just stating as a fact that 1.0 characters aren't able to clear. That's the thing, right? I don't think that's really working out that well when it's just, you know.
Happiness, boys. Hopefully my voice is returning.
All right, yeah, we're at the end of the video. Anyways, this was a bit of a longer one, right? Because I do think this is a very sort of complex, I think this is a complex and nuanced topic. But part of the reason why this is so long is because I wanted to go ahead, find all the glue, right? Do the testing, look at the kits live, do all of these things. Because naturally, right? We've been a person that's been on the forefront of games like ZZZ, of other games like that. And I think that we made sure to do we did a service to Smack and his arguments over here. I know we didn't focus a lot on the gameplay, but I've given the reasons for why I don't think it's that great of an example, right? Especially when we're making the take that older units are falling behind a lot, right? And the thing is, I think they are, but it's based off of their kits, not necessarily their damage output. And that to me is where I think a lot of the issues are. It's kit power creep versus damage power creep, where some characters like Carlotta will just do their entire rotation with their eyes closed, while a unit like Gian, oh brother, you better be locked in after using his liberation, otherwise your damage will fall off of a cliff. And that's kind of like, to me, something that should get a bit of attention. But yeah, I have the same sort of takes, but just different points of view on it and different arguments to make. Hopefully this overview, this breakdown, this deep dive was helpful. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.